before the first pick.
Yone remains banned. T1 will ban the Trundle, just as KT did on the blue side. And of course, Bard, not something you want to give to Keria. A lesson a lot of teams have had to learn and sadly relearn. Not one, though, that KT won a second crack at.
Yeah, I feel like we, in the LCK, learned that lesson rather soon, as the Pantheon also going to get taken away, so Cuzz getting a lot of respect here.
Orianna first pick, potentially, on the table.
I'm looking at Renekton as well. Both these top laners are known for it, not necessarily as a B1, but definitely as a high prio pick. It doesn't have a lot of bad matchups, at least for what we've seen thus far. Yunara open and will just get picked straight up.
A champion that obviously we see more often than not banned. A champion that a lot of players don't have a ton of competitive games on because it is so frequently banned. But now the Mundo being brought out for Cuzz. A champion that, again, in the right draft against the right compositions, really can just take over. And it's going to make it a lot harder for T1 if they go for too much AP in the composition. But it seems pretty clear to me that T1's lessons from the previous game is, hey, our bot lane needs more powerful options. Yeah, Lulu, a solid champion in the context of the draft, but it's not the Keria champion you want to see. Rakan, a very different story.
Yeah, that's definitely a Keria champion you do want to see right there. That bot lane priority for T1 has resulted in some very, very powerful picks for them. I'm very interested to see where KT go from this super tanky front line, though. You know, Mundo has been such a funny story at this Worlds, and all of the success that that champion has had. We'll see about possible counters for jungle later on, and you get Doran with the Renekton that you talk about. This is also a very good takeaway from Perfect.
Well, I was kind of wondering whether they wanted to give Perfect the Ornn, which is one of the counters we've seen into Renekton, where obviously early lane you don't really have a lot to say, but with Grasp you can actually trade pretty reliably, and you obviously outscale by a pretty insane degree. This is a prio pick for the Corki, so we're really playing for lane dominance. Level 1, obviously, in Alistair lane is going to be very lackluster, but the laning pressure should be good. I also like getting deokdam something with safety. I think that he has been, out of anyone, the member that's seemingly struggling the most with nerfs thus far, given his performance in tournament prior to finals, where he looked nigh untouchable, versus in the finals thus far, Ezreal, you know, a couple of those ults not quite calibrated. So I think Corki is one of those champions where you have a lot of power and you have a lot of safety.
Yeah, and Corki, not the most contested AD, but the one that we see the most often in the context of this tournament, and it is a really night and day difference between the great Corkis and the fine Corkis. How you use that first Trinity Force power spike can really define the game. And as we enter the second ban phase, we see the Lilia taken away from Oner. Obviously a champion who can really just kind of dance around the Mundo. If you don't hit a cleaver, she's just going to run you down.
It's also that Renekton Lilia combo. Yeah, we're really now getting towards the, not just the OP picks, we're getting towards
No one is allowed to go to sleep. Everyone has to be awake.
It's getting personal. We're really going into the target bans here.
Yeah, some of the BDD specialties there. Interesting too with the Lilia ban. Are we going to see more since Yone is still up and available? You know, okay, never mind. Yone was one of the first bans, so they can't do any more of those AP options.
I do like the Galio ban here for Faker, because that Rakan Galio combo, even if you're Corki, that's going to be hard to play into.
Also the Galio early to mid, right, the semi-global presence, but just the taunt is so much value for protecting an AD carry. It means any potential dive option that KT want to go to, even if the Yone is taken away, really just struggles against a champion like the Galio. Now the Cassio as well. You highlighted the target bans. BDD, you said it, it's getting personal.
And it makes sense as well with Rakan, Renekton already both locked in, even though the mid-jungle 2v2 of Mundo Cassio doesn't necessarily inspire that much confidence. It is something that can be quite devastating if you can get through the early game, which thus far KT have definitely been solid on. As Perfect looking for another tank, and BDD is going to need some serious damage, because I know late game Mundo can be a damage threat, but early on you're going to be really reliant on deokdam and whatever BDD will end up picking.
Taking his time. Luxury of red side, of course, you might lose out on some of these early prio picks like the Yunara, but you ensure that last pick, counter pick. Faker in the previous game didn't opt for the Victor. This time around, seems like he just wants something safe, something solid in the mid lane. Knows that this is kind of set up to really be the Guma show. When you have a champion like Yunara, even though Guma all time is 1 and 2 on it, there's a reason it's so high priority. It really can take over games.
Is it BDD Akali? We've seen that as a counter pick into the Victor. The mid to late game gets nigh unplayable in the side lane. Another champ I'd be looking towards by virtue of T1 outside of that Victor being short range is that Anivia, which has been kind of slowly coming up as a pick this tournament.
Yeah, T1 kind of rounding out a lot of damage on their team. And they add even more damage on top of it.
Oh, please.
The Syndra potentially to come through. Now, of course, the Viego, normally we see it paired with champions with a ton of burst damage, like the Syndra that is being hovered, a champion that can find resets in these fights and really take over against something like an Alistar or a Cassante, obviously. The possession can do a lot of work.
And there's layers to this because Cuzz is one of the best Viegos we've had in the LCK. BDD earlier this year had the best Syndra play that I've ever seen, hit a 4-man scatter, and he will be locking it in here.
BDD Syndra. Now, this is also, a scaling champion nowadays, stacking up the splinters, so Mundo will be scaling, Syndra will be scaling as well. This one is going to be such an impressive clash of team fights.
These two team comps are explosive as well. Both the burst of the Syndra, the Viego resets with that Renekton. It's going to be fireworks.
Absolutely is. T1 and KT 1-1. Match point on the line for both sides, and a lot of new champions being brought into the fold, courtesy of the Fearless Draft, the Viego. I'm looking at the Mundo, the Syndra. So much to keep our eyes on in this game 3.
And there was a lot of content around Oner's first Mundo pick, but remember that the Mundo that Cuzz played in this tournament was also his first professional game of it as well. All of the junglers really being forced to pick up that champion. And now we'll get to see it in the grand finals.
For both teams, this is the reset. A best of 3, all that stands in front of you. KT, both early games have taken control. Dominating the map, finding advantages, punishing where T1 have overstepped. But in the mid to late game, it has always felt like T1 might just find the angle to fight it back, regardless of what happened in the early game. Will this finally be the game to buck the trend? Will T1 pull ahead for the first time this series, or KT set to run away with yet another early game?
It feels like this is the draft to do it for T1. There's Renekton, there's Viego, and there is that Rakan. Victor and Yunara might need normally a little bit of time, but this is basically the opposite of last game. That was 2 carries. This time they basically have 4, especially when it comes to those early game fights. And we're going to have to see how KT deal with, I think, having the weaker early game comp.
And one of those carries is Yunara, super power pick on the patch that has not been given over very frequently. Faker on the run from the early move here from KT, though.
Backing away. And as we have a moment to reset, right, a moment to breathe before I'm sure inevitably fist fightings happens, I want to remind people that both of these lineups have made swaps this year. Despite the fact that they are in the World Finals, it has not been smooth sailing for either team. Guma, of course, subbed out. Doran coming in for Zeus this year. And when you look at this lineup for KT, players swapped in and out. Peter multiple times, perfect on the top side, doubted. And it's such a testament to the tenacity of these players that they have come all the way to the World Finals.
Because there was a lot of hype behind Wei coming in after basically doing the Challengers equivalent of Golden Roading. And it, in the end, ends up being Peter that is here at the World's Finals. And I already talked about it in game number 2. It has to be said, because this man was the most often talked about weak point on this roster. And thus far, he's had a, frankly, incredible tournament, particularly those isolated deaths. I can't really overstate how big of an improvement that is and how reliable he's become. And KT have clearly been leaning on him.
And even in the game that they lost, his Rumble, very good as well. So perfect, really showing up here for KT as the entire team has. Guma pushing up on the Yunara with the Q charged, looking to use that priority.
Heal coming in for Keria, of course. Level 1 for Peter on this Alistar, notoriously very weak. For Keria and Guma, also the access to the Gleaming Quill on the Rakan means they'll be able to keep their health relatively topped up. See how long they're able to secure pressure as we take a look at the entire map. Doran push on the top side. Mid lane relatively even. BDD, of course, can do a lot of damage in those short trades. Very easy to land those Dark Spheres when no one has boots, but has to be careful about taking return damage.
Yeah, multiple pushing lanes here for T1 with top side and bottom side. And then Oner has Viego into Mundo at the moment. So definitely looking to see if he can actually make use of these pushing lanes and go try and punish. Cuzz probably going to bounce back to the other side and go for the safer Scuttle Crab trade.
Faker's actually been doing a really good job in lane as Peter. There's going to be a trade.
Initial knockup, but potentially a bit over-eager from Peter. Again, Alistar passive a decent amount of healing, and they are up a sum, but have to be careful about trading his life like that.
Still have the heal. Oner does look for a dive. We'll see. Ward should spot him out if he actually makes the play, but I think he's just going to go for Crab.
Yep, hug the side, and then the play here from Cuzz, where he recalled immediately after his clear, is going to pay off. Will get back for that Scuttle Crab trade that you're looking for on Mundo. And Oner down here will be known, so they're going to surmise that it's just normal clears for both.
And I want to draw attention to actually the early laning phase for Faker has been really, really solid. Actually able to dodge most of these spheres. BDD with the phase rush. Still able to CS well, but has been pushed in for most of it.
And T1, since Oner got bottom side Scuttle Crab, communicating, all right, Doran, go in, get your ward timing here for the respawn of these Krugs, the second clear.
BDD also at some point forced to burn Flash. Didn't catch it at the time, but that is a massive cooldown to lose out on. Again, Syndra, one of the biggest weaknesses of this champion across countless times we've seen her in Pro is that, yeah, it's easy to stay ahead. It's easy to stay at arm's length, but once you lose that Flash, you're incredibly vulnerable to these early ganks.
In the Viego versus Mundo matchup, something we also should talk about is that as Mundo, you always want to try and activate your ult as low as possible, right? That's when you get the most value. But that is something that's very scary. There's obviously also the percentage health damage that Viego does, but just the threat of that execute with the setup that's there from the Rakan, from the Renekton, it means that Cuzz is going to have to play very respectful, as we do have both mid laners now TPing back to lane and BDD again. If they can keep track of Oner, should be feeling fine, but otherwise, needs to be very careful.
Yeah, Mundo oftentimes looking for farms, and sometimes that can be hard if you have multiple lanes getting pushed in, but on the reset here from supports, both junglers will meet up with their supports and combining for some mid lane push.
And for now in the early game, T1 holding on to a relatively small gold lead. Again, it's mostly Doran on the top side, although some of that can be mitigated as that wave is caught, and Gumayusi with a small lead over deokdam on top of skidding the coal. Again, Corki, that first item, always quite terrifying. So slowing that down big for T1 in the context of these early game plays. Oner with the bot lane prio will be starting the Drake.
And this is a big upgrade for T1. They were able to get early Drakes last game, but it's about the lanes, right? Because even though they got those Drakes, it did feel like KT was able to, again, set up these early gold leads. As Cuzz maybe doing some poking, but I don't think an actual contest is in the works here.
As long as he has his passive up, he's not too worried. Hex Drake down. BDD waiting in the darkness. Multi-man! The CC layering is there. deokdam on the way in, but he's only level 4. Oner now running for his life. Forced to flash away. Ulti comes out from Faker. He doesn't have a lot of mana left. The Dark Sphere hitting, slowing Faker down. The chase coming through, but they really don't have what they need. Ulti there, his power unleashed, the weak scattered, and first blood for KT.
BDD Syndra finds it, and they do get the first blood. deokdam does take the actual kill and gets the money into the Corki to fund his Trinity Force.
And the Syndra is a BDD classic for a reason. He's been known for mastery on this champion for a very long time, and I'm kind of shocked. I really did not think that KT necessarily had the angle there, but it's the confidence they've shown so far. Now T1 not going to be too bothered by this. We do have Doran immediately trying to apply pressure. They were able to get the Drake as well, so trade for a kill, not the end of the world.
Yeah, BDD walks him down, waits for his E to come back up, puts all the balls down with the ultimate, and does find the kill. As you say though, Dragon over to T1 so they can look to keep stacking.
deokdam, it feels like caught shopping. Panic barrier in that moment.
No, I think he tried to cancel the base cancel with barrier.
But
so
of course,
if you don't take damage then, but he was a little bit too late.
Well, also the Fury from Renekton eats the shield. So, awkward situation for deokdam. Will be down the barrier. Of course, not the most important summoner spell, but does mean he needs to be a bit more careful when he does reset to this top side. Guma and Keria starting to poke, looking to get control of this lane. Recall for deokdam, only getting him that phage. Not ideal as Faker and BDD continue to trade. The Siphon power from Faker is such a strong early game trading tool, just to make sure that BDD really can't run away with this mid lane.
And Doran,
what's that crocodile doing?
He's going for the proxy here. You want to get your extra 30 seconds? Well, move up and catch the wave before it joins up with the opponent. Is going to mean Cuzz has an inside route and access to the alligator, though.
That's a Mundo with red buff.
Doran.
Doran.
Yeah, Syndra's coming.
Doran.
He's just dead.
You only have one piece of CC.
cornered.
Yeah, that doesn't work on him. He's going where he pleases. Doran, I think this might not have been what you wanted. BDD on the way, hoping to get this donated. Doran, I think.
Well, he's stalling.
Barnott might be in the game, but this is certainly a magical journey for Doran as...
Trying for the execute. It's all he can do, but not going to happen.
Well,
it's important to choose your timings when you go to proxy.
And also a reminder that no matter what you see in a World Final, it's not always going to work in solo queue.
Hey, they got grubs.
I take it back. It was a genius
made the
play.
Mundo
Yes.
ult for
Yes.
move speed. Eh?
Hey.
He got free grubs for his team. You know, they're still up in gold. He's buying time. He got his waves.
I'm going to ask you as the LCK expert, are you giving him credit for that as a calculated play? It's up to you. You can decide. We'll go with you.
I mean, normally I feel very confident to make a judgment call like that, but Doran has often missed the fight, both in a very positive sense and sometimes in a more questionable sense. So, but we joke, obviously, the Mundo getting ahead is not great, but he did actually get a lot for this, right? With the grubs going over, it did feel like it was just unnecessary, because I think the first proxy was great, but the second one...
Perfect.
Oh?
Top laners versus junglers. Who comes out on top? Perfect, not quite able to pull Oner out over the wall. W coming in there from the Unara. Perfect waiting for a bit more time. Cuzz. They don't want to fully commit here. deokdam and BDD. Scat of the week is good. Will at least be some more poke damage back onto Faker as Peter TPing in bot lane. Headbutts back Guma.
Ooh, dodges the Slurkle, and we will be seeing Perfect make his way towards the top lane.
Or the slowing circle,
Yeah.
I assume. Okay, got it.
Max lives on.
He does.
I don't love it, but, you know, we're an LCK versus
He's
LCK
decided.
match.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
As, Perfect actually going for the 4-mil first. There is a lot of healing on the enemy team. We'll get a decent amount of value of that.
Yeah, and we just saw Perfect had to respect the possibility of an Oner execute play, you know, down there on the bottom side, trying to get an extra summoner spell or something out of the skirmish, but because of the arrival of Guma, had to respect it and back off from the extra possible damage there. So we remain very calm here. And you can kind of look at it as T1 have paid for each objective with 1 kill worth of gold for their dragon and for their 3 grubs to get to this point.
Pathmaker, Q3, but of course Perfect already used his own ulti. Dominus meets ult advantage for the side of Doran. Forces the flash out, happy to have that small advantage. You highlighted it well, Kobe. They did concede 2 kills, but when you have the gold lead in both objectives, I don't think you're too bothered. BDD taking a bit of damage, but it looks like T1 are just here to help Faker get that push out, likely completing a major item.
Ooh, that is the ultimate gone for Faker. So we'll see if BD is able to catch the wave and then TP his way over, because there's not prio in either lane. It feels like T1 should have this on lockdown because it's there, and Mundo
That's a hard
to
steal.
be unbothered.
Continuing to do
That's a
decent
lot of
damage.
damage.
Infernal, good damage as well. Lock up there, but Oner going unstoppable. Peter caught out for a brief moment, immediately going to be forced to ult. That's the unbreakable. The flash, it doesn't connect. The Q doing absolutely nothing means T1 are able to walk away. A bit of a fumble from Peter, but it doesn't cost KT much yet. Gumayusi standing on the backside, ready to transcend if he needs to. deokdam going all in to try to stop him from getting in this fight. Oner on the way in, looking for the reset to keep the fights going. BDD going over, wants to kill Oner, but Oner lives for an extra second. The stun to turn it back. Oner taking over BDD, but the stun does not connect, and Peter's now running. Cuzz locked down in the meantime. Perfect is finally here, but it might not matter. Reset on the ulti from Oner means he gets to back away, but the health bars are low across all of T1. KT, this is an insane gamble. Objective, lower and lower, and Cuzz is taking unstoppable for Perfect. Gets a bit more space. Keria still living. deokdam on the way in, and Guma set the fall. Down goes the AD carry. deokdam on the way out, the TP in. Fish in a barrel, and it's time for KT to start free firing. T1 thought they had the edge, but in the end, it's KT who take the Drake and the play.
And it's because Mundo! He steals the objective, he chases down the kills, the hero that KT needed.
At first, this play looks dire for KT. They waste a lot. BDD there tries to get the execute, but just doesn't have the damage. Syndra's down, Flash is gone. And then, as Peter goes down, I want you to watch what deokdam is able to do here, because he keeps hovering over, firing these rockets. The poke just keeps connecting, and then Perfect goes in, and all he needs to do is buy time and buy space for his Corki to Gatling gun his way through T1.
Huge, huge moment there. Corki doing work. Cuzz hits the cleaver, flashes in to finish off the kill as well, and BDD comes back in time to claim the kill on Faker himself.
In the back for KT, erupting with joy. It looks like T1 had taken it. The steal started to feel like it was going to balance out, but in the overall extended fight, KT just keep on doubling down. And folks, I'm starting to think the Mundo might be a problem.
Yeah, that's almost 10 times as much damage. That's
is
a little silly.
This is Cuzz's second professional Mundo game.
Yeah, on track, looking good. And I gotta say, Oner, he gets the Kraken Slayer. Uh-oh, Gumayusi has not decided to ult. deokdam might be in trouble here. Knockup does not connect. Peter trying to get a bit more space, and Cuzz is on the way in. All of T1 forced to retreat. Maximum dosage popped just to get him in range as BDD then is now collapsing on the side lane. Multiple pieces of CC stun. Initial lockup into Oner is decent. BDD trying to turn back. Sidestep does not work. Oner taking the kill.
One of the hardest parts about these control mage changes is, or trades, is when you try and play the side lanes, who are very vulnerable here. And so T1 able to pounce on the flashless Syndra.
Really nice play there from T1. Also, no, right? Cuzz shows mid. Ult obviously felt like it wasn't going to do too much, just wanted to get to the fight as soon as possible. And I think shouldn't line up too poorly when it comes to timing. Level 2 of that almost available. But knowing that there is no one and that BDD doesn't have flash, Doran and Oner can fully commit onto the Syndra and take down BDD.
And it's going to be BDD and deokdam who have these targets on their back. Cuzz very far ahead, incredibly difficult to kill. But BDD who's flashless, deokdam who's flashless, really vulnerable to the potential engage threat that can come out from Oner or Keria if T1 can find these angles. For now, a battle of vision. We're looking ahead to the next objective. 20 seconds till that Rift Herald spawns. Both teams gold, nearly neck and neck, but a completed item for Faker is going to make a big difference.
T1, if they can get backline access with Oner, Keria, or Doran, the fight is going to be really hard to play out for KT. BDD's position is going to be paramount in these fights. As in the last fight, he flashed forward, didn't find the kill, and it was the rest of the team that kind of bailed him out. Then got picked there as Cuzz walks forward with no fear.
Yeah, he has to let his front line do the work that they are built to do. Peter, Cuzz, and Perfect. Let's see if they can actually bring it together. The teleport is ready for Perfect as well, and he is now proxying Doran, but he knows that there's nobody else that's going to come and gank him.
There's no Mundo on the enemy team. Scryer's Bloom used as well just to confirm that fact. Pressure in the mid lane in favor of KT means that they're going to get first setup on the Herald. Now there is still vision here from T1 if they do opt to contest.
Oh, there's the TP, there's the flank!
TP from behind, flashing forward. Keria's going to find the knock on the deokdam, but Peter beautifully stopping the initial engage. Doran from behind, though, more than enough to knock down that 80 carry. KT running.
Huge TP flank. What? It turns into more.
Peter, flash out, reset from Oner. Unstoppable for a moment. Oner setting up for the angle, but he's not going to overcommit. Reset on the ulti, taking him out as T1 start the objective.
And a big mistake there from the KT support. deokdam getting caught, that's just a good play. Nice flank there from T1, but then Peter stepping forward and Cuzz and BDD trying to look for a kill on the opposite end. But with any of these Viego compositions, if you get the first kill, they just feel so good as Keria sets up the play here, and deokdam has nowhere to go.
And man, that deep ward value that allows Doran to teleport in for the flank, incredible. And Peter, that cow is in the wrong area.
Definitely was. You could see how he had a bit of hope, a glimmer of hope. He peeled 2 people, but when the third comes in, when it's Doran on that flank, to seal the deal on the kill, to make sure that they get more out of that play. And gentlemen, Gumayusi, the one who's getting so much of this money, he's the one who's starting to get scary. And unlike the Sivir, this is a champion that I think has the mobility, the tools to really start taking over. You can see he's already getting the confidence to just step right up into deokdam's face, even in the face of that Trinity Force.
And Dragon is going to be picked up here by KT. Camtech definitely high value, but you do give up the topside turret. This gold lead for T1. Getting larger and larger as Keria not sitting on
Peter,
Smite.
Hex Flash, Pulverize, knocks Keria back over the wall, and here comes deokdam. Down goes Keria. A little bonus kill on top of the Drake, certainly nice to have.
I don't know what he was thinking. He doesn't have Smite. His team is playing the cross map. Not really a reason to try and fish there.
Doran spotted, eyes on the scatter of the week. QE not going to work. The Cleaver certainly hitting like a truck. Doran very likely to just have to concede this tower. So KT get the Drake, they get a kill. The Redemption now used as well, and it's on Doran to instantly delete this wave. It's working out well so far, but can he keep his life? TP's coming in from the side of T1, but it's just Faker and Guma off to the side. They don't have the tools to keep the fight going. KT going to respond. All of T1 now retreating. KT still winning out, still coming out on top, but in the mid lane, it's the Herald that's been used. T1 going to try to transition into breaking down that mid lane tier 1, and it's yet another TP in the sequence of play. BDD wants to deny it. Scatter to clear out the rest of the wave. It'll be a chunk of damage, but the tier 1 will not drop.
nicely done by KT to parlay that pick into an extra kill. They've got Cuzz, they've got Mundo. He can tank up that tower. They go for the dive. They make the play very nicely and very quickly.
And we do see the gold lead has now evaporated. Basically reduced to nothing. Was 2K just a little bit ago, and I don't want to see a Mundo and Cassante with Chemtech Soul. That's too much, man.
That truly will be too tanky to take down. Honestly, though, Keria, like you were talking about, sniffing around the dragon, and KT actually turned that pick onto him into a lot of value here. A nice little bit of ballooning of the gold. See if they can actually push it forward, though. Faker in the side lane, trying to keep the pressure up.
And it's really interesting me looking at scaling in this game, because I think the Yunara, the Victor obviously scale great, but when you look at the raw 5v5 power of particularly that Mundo, that Syndra, that Alistar combo, I think we're seeing T1 really hard force plays because they don't necessarily feel confident. I think this comp can always win fights, right?
Sure.
If you ever get the pick, if you can ever start, particularly with this build from Oner, get that early execute, because he has so much damage available, but your front to back trying to get past these big beefy targets down the line might become a problem, especially if they keep stacking dragons.
I mean, definitely could be, right? You're waiting for Guma to get more damage under his belt. You're waiting for Oner and Guma to be able to do work with these double Kraken Slayers, but they're so reliant on these major cooldowns. And if Perfect and Cuzz are still standing when those ultimates are gone, that team fight is not going to go in your favor. It's 6 seconds now to the Otacon. We're looking at the bottom side of the map. The push in bot lane for now is in favor of KT. T1 holding on, doing well. 2 items on their carry. Guma holding on to a small lead despite the catastrophic earlier fight. But it's KT looking to potentially start the major objective.
Keria, to me, has to be the difference maker. He's the one that is the initiation tool. This time there is no flank ward, so Doran can't quite find an angle as easily as he did in the last one. So Keria has to do a lot of heavy lifting. Has the sums available, but so do the carries of KT.
Look at the lane allocation here, because BDD, no teleport up in top wave, was actually catching it. So T1 trying to take advantage of that information, knowing it's going to take BDD a while to walk to this area. Oner, though, is taking a significant amount of damage from the Otacon, as well as getting shredded from it here. So KT feel like they are fine.
KT will have to respect Doran. You highlighted it well. Perfect needs a bit more time for his TP to come back off cooldown. So KT might just try to draw this out, just try to delay T1 a bit, threaten the objective to give themselves the time they need. And I think the good news for KT is Peter, Cuzz, these frontliners really hard to catch out. The passive from Mundo makes it so impossible for T1 to land a single piece of CC. And the Unbreakable from Peter also means that even if they see one of these isolated members, it might not be the right choice to go in, as Perfect and Doran continue to fistfight. Perfect, of course, doesn't have TP and wants to make sure that Doran can't get out of here. Going all out in the middle, Pathmaker hitting the Q3 does not connect, crucially, so Doran will walk away, but he walks away ultless.
He actually got the W there on the Renekton Ruthless Predator, I'm pretty sure, so didn't get stunned. Wins that trade handily, also presses tab most likely, and is like, I have a Thorn Mail and a Jack Shows. Good luck, buddy. Starrick's now done for Doran, though. That is a big cooldown that will give this Renekton a lot of power, but not having the ultimate, that dominance available, might prove for T1 to not be too big of a hindrance. We'll have to see as Keria, again, trying to set up some vision here.
Keria has made countless plays to bring T1 to this point. Rakan, a champion with so much agency, but again, it's hard in the face of a Mundo, a champion who gets to ignore that first piece of CC, who has so much healing. KT zoning away T1 while BDD pushes the wave.
Critical team fight here. Everybody on 2 items, basically. Looking
Flashes
for the
available.
setup.
Now T1 continue to poke their head in, but they really don't have control of the waves. They're waiting for Guma to push out mid lane, but they really need to respect the engaged threat range of BDD. The Dark Sphere Scatter the Weak combo can be devastating. Gumayusi without a cleanse effect to his name.
The rewards for this team fight are so huge because Otacon and the Dragon both on this side.
Baker continuing to poke.
If you win this fight, you might not just get Dragon, you might get Otacon as well. We'll see, T1 might give up the Drake and then play for the objective instead. Perfect.
Oner lurking in the darkness. Perfect unstoppable for a brief moment. T1 happy to have the poke, chipping away at that health bar.
Oh, they're pincering them.
KT losing control of that Tri-Brush is big. Scatter going wide, also massive. It's a huge cooldown. At this point in the game, perfect over the wall with the blast cone. Knocks back Guma. Redemption going down. Cuzz holding onto the maximum dosage as long as he can, but it's Faker off to the side. Not too isolated. 5K on the Drake. Getting lower. Eyes on Peter. The Alistair to make the play as Faker tries to zone away. KT, it's Peter in the clutch. Scatter to fall, but the fall damage is not there. Exhausted is Faker. And Keria tries to turn it back, but he's all by his lonesome. Doran cannot get into the back line. KT managed to find the initial kill. It's perfect shot to pop off. Guma missing completely. They get the Drake, but it might cost T1 everything.
He flashes into the wall, and that might be the Otacon going over to KT.
Cuzz continuing to go where he damn well pleases. T1 forced back. The tier 1 tower starting to fall. Otacon already getting started by the remaining members of T1. Peter waiting as well.
A critical team fight for KT. They don't care about losing that dragon because they get the gold and they get the Otacon in the aftermath. I think that was critical that T1 made split calls here. Look, they don't have Viego damage with their dive. So Oner finishes the dragon, but look at Keria. He goes with Doran. So Keria and Doran dive the backline, both deokdam and BDD, but they didn't have their burst damage there with them.
As we see Score and the coaching staff, I think they felt necessitated because Faker got engaged on. So you have to pull the trigger. Doran tries to salvage the play. I think in the moment that's the right call, but without Guma or Oner, you just don't have the damage to kill that Corki.
And Perfect comes up huge once again on the Cassante, and he even survives the play.
Feels, again, like a breakout performance. No doubt. The highest level we've ever seen him at. And the big thing is here, by winning that Otacon, you get more XP, you get those flowers, which is so crucial for this Syndra who's crossed the 100 mark threshold on those splinters, getting closer to 120. You get some every time you level up, so that level advantage for BDD just pays double.
For T1 though, look at the cooldowns that you got. I'm looking at deokdam's flash. Any fight that T1 can start with the amount of burst that they have, if they can single out any target that isn't perfect, I think you have a good opportunity. And okay, let's be real, Cuzz also is about it. He's getting close to level 16, not feeling too good about that one, but deokdam, BDD, even Peter if he's too far forward, you need to start the fight with an early pick, but for that, you need to be the aggressor. And I think, that engage we saw, if it's KT that is calling the shots, the Viego comp just doesn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, you called it right before it happened, but Peter, the engage, the setup onto Faker, followed by the scatter the weak. Nice little opening for them. You have to be on the same page in these team fights. Both of these teams have indexed so heavily and found so much success because of their team fighting.
And I think pressure just continues to be on Guma, right? Had the Sivir game, they couldn't quite get it over the line. On Unar, the strongest AD on the patch. deokdam again. Learn from the previous game. Will not wander into the fog of war, whether it's Renekton or Sion. The lesson has been learned as Cuzz has been caught out. Initial CC is good. Cuzz getting bursted through with the flash over the wall keeps him standing. Peter trying to zone away. Ulti from Guma means they want to keep this fight going. Good scatter, but doesn't quite connect on Gumayusi. Critically, he's able to just free fire. KT forced backwards, but Faker now half HP.
And Peter, what a psychopath. He went in instead. A lot of damage to come down, and KT, they're looking for the chase.
Cuzz connecting the cleaver, still has access to the maximum dosage, zoning all of T1 away. Faker just barely able to make it out. TP is his. He can get back to this fight if KT try to force the Baron.
Flip it. Faker can TP back in. A lot of cooldowns are gone, though. Look at the ultimates that aren't available for T1.
They have to be careful of moving into the choke, and they know what Oner trying to approach from another side. The potential for BDD to line up a multi-man scatter for it to end the fight in a blink of an eye is massive, but once again, it's the flank that they're looking for. But it's Doran caught out! BDD unleashing his power. Cuzz using the maximum dosage as KT start to push into Gumayusi. He's ultless, he's helpless. There's nothing he can do. Mundo pushing further and further into T1's back line.
KT are doing it! The stun from BDD right onto Renekton as he's trying to go through the wall. BDD stuns him as he dashes, and the reward might be Baron.
There is still the opportunity for a steal. Oner's there. He doesn't have his ultimate though. Flash about to come up. If they don't steal this, KT might set up for a soul point as well.
Teleport.
Coming in from BDD, well called. Potential 50-50. The Mundo damage.
Oner.
The auto Keria trying to zone. Peter on the way and wants to knock them out of the fight. The objective getting lower and lower, but off T1! Deleted! In the blink of an eye, KT take everything!
And the scatter from BDD will not let them pass. deokdam lives, and that's Baron.
Listen to that crowd. Listen to that crowd. They are riding the roller coaster. KT with the advantage.
And when we look back at this fight, again, Doran caught out the scatter to deny his path over the wall.
And it's Peter even there on a really deep flank angle, and Faker on this Victor trying to make the flank work as they just don't have the tools to deal with this Mundo. He's just not taking any damage.
And then they know to start up the Baron, draw T1 to them. The desperate play from T1. They flash in, they try and burst down deokdam, but the peel is there. deokdam does not fall. And KT, they've got Baron, they've got a 4,000 gold lead. They also have the Otacon buff still in their favor.
And almost the entire year, T1 have dominated this KT lineup. But for what feels like the first time in countless years, it is KT who have T1 on the back foot. KT who once again have a gold lead. This time not from snowballing early, but fighting incredibly in the mid to late game.
And for this roster, with deokdam, Peter, and Perfect all being subbed out at various different times of the year, for them to work back to this point, inspirational stuff. KT, can they do it?
We saw it in the previous game. T1 was almost able to find their way back. Kuma doesn't have a third on him yet, though. That execution is not quite there. And trying to play a pick comp from behind is known to be an exercise in futility. Look at Perfect, he's not afraid.
T1 have to be careful. A single scatter connects, and it all could fall apart.
Cuzz is almost level 16 here on the Mundo as well. Ooh. That rank 3 ultimate is big.
Splinter's almost maxed out as well. That AP steroid, an additional 15%, as if BDD wasn't doing enough already. Only 3 away now. It's level 16 for both mid laners. Keria with a good combo, Faker with a good ulti. You can see the path to T1 turning it, but it's just so hard to imagine Cuzz dying to anything at this point in the game.
And the BDD, 3 items done. 10-stack Dark Seal, slow and steady. As this bot lane inhib certain to fall, you see T1 as well. They're accepting it. Doran maybe trying to trade an inner in top. Cuzz just getting a crab for his efforts, as now the 3 item spikes have been hit for Faker, for Oner, and for Guma.
Peter. KT waiting off to the side. T1 see an opportunity. Doran continuing to push in the top lane. T1 want to just keep KT around, deny these resets, but there's no real major example. Faker caught out by Peter. Cuzz on the way in, but nothing's going to come from it. Ulti goes from Faker, and Peter's just going to walk away. Again, no major objective, so it's not a big deal, but T1 have to be careful.
Heal used there by Peter. Doesn't want to go down, and T1, if they had a flank ward, if they had the bot lane turret taken down, maybe there's an opportunity, but that one is still standing 31 minutes in.
And during their defense, T1 are able to get the top side secondary tower for Doran in addition to the red buff, plus this outer tower as well. So a little bit of gold back in their favor, but KT, they stand just 2 minutes away from a Dragon Soul arrival. That fight will be critical.
Yeah, that's Cuzz level 16, and that's a Cassante. That's
You
too
want
much.
to add
That's
anything?
too much
You didn't want to add
power.
anything?
No,
Just Cassante?
No. I did need to add more. You guys both know.
Yeah, refer to Showmaker.
Yeah.
For the rest of the description of that champion. And honestly, that is the immense tanky front line that KT have to their advantage. Those 2 champions that you mentioned, plus Peter's possible engages here with the Alistar that KT are going to try and use once they draw T1 over to the Dragon Soul fight.
And we keep repeating it because I think it's the only way, barring a colossal mistake from KT, that they win. They need to find a pick on BDD or deokdam. These are your 2 main targets. BDD's flash will almost be up. BDD and his team also have the benefit of getting to choose. They can just play for Baron. They don't have to care about the Dragon, so it'll just be soul point. But with Guma approaching his 4th item, maybe this Yunara can do some magic. T1 have found themselves in deficits in a game like this. It was the 3 of us JDG looked like they had them on the ropes, and they found the comeback as the TP comes in.
TP from behind, they want to catch out Perfect. Perfect can try and use Doran as an escape route. Keria has to be careful, but Pathmaker already used means that Perfect is in trouble. Q3 back through, using Keria now to escape. Perfect on his way out. It's not the Rek'Sai, but once again, it feels like he's going to escape. All of KT looking to collapse. Eyes on Faker and Doran as Perfect flashes out to safety. That's the ulti used by Guma. KT pulling back, keeping Perfect alive. Doran wants to make the difference. Cuzz goes in. T1 making it happen. Guma fails the flash. It stops the fight from going through. Doran getting whittled down. And in the end, it's Cuzz again who refuses to drop. Peter with the CC. I cannot believe it. KT holding on as T1 in the end might finally get to the moon. Now, no!
Who comes out ahead? The scrap Faker trying to chase down the extra kill, but so is Cuzz.
I think the time has worked out better for KT here. Look, the jungler for KT is up because he is unbothered. He's about to secure them. That Chemtech soul.
7-0 and 6. A back and forth fight. It felt like that T1 magic was coming through.
All right. So they get the flash stun to get the burst damage on it, Chronicler, but this fight gets so scrappy as you see the carries that are still left up. deokdam finishes off of Doran, but then Faker is able to get the shutdown.
But it's the deficit that they're in that makes that close. In a normal situation, that catch just ends it. BDD will get caught as the Baron is surely in the eyes of KT on the precipice of match point.
If those fights are coming down to that low of health bars, now with a Chemtech Soul, so difficult here for T1 to finish off kills this time around. Let's see it. The setup though, BDD throws the Scuttle Crab away. He knows it's a little bit dangerous at the moment.
Not a single flash available on the Rift. Any misstep could cost T1 the game. KT on the precipice of match point, but we've seen T1 not out of this yet, no matter how strong Cuzz looks. All of T1, though, forced to retreat. Again, the power of this Chemtech with a Cassante and a Mundo is a terrifying prospect for T1 to contend with.
T1, I think they need the Infinity Edge on Gumayusi. It's going to be really difficult for them to buy the time for him to actually get that because KT can just threaten this Baron. You keep the map dark, you threaten T1 constantly, don't allow Gumayusi any time to farm, to catch up.
They spot it now. Baron getting lower. T1 can't afford to let this get away from them. Peter just using the Hex Flash as all of T1 start to move in. Double Randuins to slow the approach of T1 if they need. It might come down to the 50-50. Peter trying to spot Oner to force him out of the pit. No smite for either support, even with the spellbook, as T1 getting forced backwards. Maximum dosage still there for Cuzz, crucially. Picks up the canister. Guma really starting to hurt, but it's not enough damage.
Sterix is there. T1 taking a little bit too much poke. We'll see if KT actually want to pull the trigger on this or set up a bait. Eventually, T1's going to run out of the resources, but they do know with that ward.
Bot wave pushing in the favor of KT. Crucially, if T1 take a fight and lose, KT will immediately end the game. T1, the pressure point is on them. KT have baited them into the trap. Peter from the darkness, finding Doran, but not the ideal carry as Guma and Faker are still untouched for now. Gravity field to lock them up. Maximum dosage. Cuzz getting lower, but still living. The Mundo refusing to die, and Gumayusi drops. KT taking it across the finish line. Faker forced back. The bot lane open. The TP there for BDD. KT moving to match point.
The KT Rolster coaster keeps going up and up.
We're still not done. KT about to go up match point in the telecom war in the world's final.
A story at this tournament